Hey family, my name is Ben, and in this episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue podcast, we're talking with Ceri Kidby Salem. We're continuing our conversations with the most influential women in barbecue, and Ceri is a compulsive competitive barbecue judge and founder of the Women of Low and Slow Australia Facebook group. So, I think it's time to get Ceri in here.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Hi Ceri, welcome to the confessional. It's great to have you.
Hi Ben, it's great to be here. Thanks so much.
I just want to say thank you for taking a bit of time to sort of look at your surroundings and sort of set up your cameras nicely and everything, because it looks fantastic. It's coming through crystal clear. The audio's great. I love it.
No worries at all.
So I always kick the show off with the same first three questions. What was the last thing that you barbecued?
Ooh, probably a short rib. I am a bit partial to one of those. I'm just exploring a new range of wine that's been made to have with barbecue. So I'm kind of going through all of their recommended pairings at the moment, which is delicious.
Right. What's that about? Is that like a club, like a wine club or something?
No, down at Meatstock, the Butcher's Cellar released their new range of wines, and there's a Malbec, Cab Sav, and a Shiraz. And coming from a wine background, I thought, well, don't need any more excuse, so let's get amongst it.
Nice, I like that. And so, what does pair nicely with a beef rib then?
I love the Shiraz with the beef rib. It's got a nice structure to it, but the way that they've blended their wines, it's got a nice juice to it as well. And you always want a bit of acidity when you're eating kind of more fattier cuts.
Oh, excellent. Now let's sort of talk about how you like to do those beef ribs. Give us a bit of a rundown there.
I'm rotating through a whole bunch of different rubs at the moment. We have so many cool places to pick up new stuff near us. So I won't name any names because I didn't super love the one that I used last night, but just give it a bit of time with the rub to settle in, and then nice and slow and get that bark going on so that there's a bit of flavour to match with everything else in the meal and the wine.
Excellent, yeah. And do you do that in a Weber or a pellet grill? How do you like to?
BBQ Elite. I got it for my 30th, and that was kind of at the start of my barbecue journey, or probably about a year in. And I live in an apartment, so I don't have heaps of room for it, and it takes a lot of very careful drip feeding to make sure that I don't smoke out the place.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that. Do you have to sort of bribe the neighbours not to make complaints by giving them some barbecue? How do you get around that?
Well, I thought that would be a good strategy, but so far no one has knocked on the door, and I'm wondering if they might be secret vegetarians or something, but I've had no issues.
Oh, okay,
it's more the smoke
all right.
alarms I'm worried about.
Yeah, fair enough. I can certainly understand that. Now, you're based in Brisbane, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, because I know in Sydney that they've actually banned barbecues on balconies down in Sydney, so
and I don't know how that would fly in Brisbane because there's so much beautiful barbecue weather up here that, I'm sure there'd be a riot. From where I sit in my office here, I can see that my next door neighbour has got an offset on their balcony. So I think they're a little bit ballsier than I am. But obviously someone's going to complain about them before they complain about my very modest ProQ.
Man, that is like mad props to whoever's got an offset on a balcony of an apartment. That's commitment.
Yeah, and we're in New Farm, so it's like pretty close to the city as well. So we've got a lot of high rises around here, and I just think, well, good for them.
Yeah, well, and New Farm's more of a progressive sort of modern area, so you've probably got a lot of hipsters that are right into low and slow barbecue at the moment.
Oh, heaps, and we've got some really amazing butchers around the area too. So and maybe everyone's just cool with it.
I'd say so. I dare say so. Now, we just recently caught up at Meatstock in Toowoomba. How did you enjoy the weekend?
I've never been to Toowoomba, and I moved to Queensland about 8 years ago, and I was really interested in getting out there and seeing what country Queensland is like, and it definitely didn't disappoint. They're the loveliest people, and the air is super fresh out there, and it really had the great kind of country music, authentic traditional barbecue vibe. Meatstock's a really well-run festival, and I was stoked to be part of the crew there. It was just, it does take a lot out of you because it's 3 days of judging and lots of great country music to enjoy as well. So long days. And when I got home, I was keen to, have a lie down, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it was such an awesome time.
Yeah, I think I slept for about 10 or 12 hours straight when I got home on Saturday night, so I can certainly understand what you're saying there. Now, you also did Meatstock Melbourne just the weekend before, didn't you?
Yeah, a couple of weekends before that, but Meatstock Melbourne was probably double the size in terms of patrons, and it's actually my hometown, so it was great to go home and see the hometown crowd and catch up with some mates there. But it was, again, another huge weekend. So, really good times. Great to be back finally doing events after the break we've had.
Yeah, how did you find the difference between Meatstock Melbourne and Meatstock Toowoomba? Because I know that Jay was looking for a different feel.
It definitely was a different feel. I think Toowoomba was a lot more relaxed and a lot more green space because it was at the Toowoomba Showgrounds, whereas the Flemington Showgrounds is a little bit more urban. You've got, a lot more of your agricultural buildings and things there, lots more hipsters. We had a lot of great entrants for the beard, mow and mullet competitions. But it was definitely, you get your hot rods, you get your, inner city barbecue fans and craft beer and all that sort of stuff. So it is a little bit of a different vibe, but, both super fun. I think Toowoomba is probably a little bit more like you go up there for the weekend, whereas Meatstock Melbourne, you make a day of it.
Yeah. Now, I didn't get down to Meatstock Melbourne this year, but you mentioned the beard and mustache wars. In Toowoomba, they also included the hairy chest and the dad bod awards. Did they do that down in Melbourne? Well. Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah. It's a bit of fun. And it's, I helped out recruiting people for the Melbourne event, and it was actually kind of nice to walk around with Rian from Barbecue and Brews and kind of call out people who look like they've got a rockin' mullet or a rockin' mustache or something like that. But when it comes to the dad bods and the hairy chests, you have to be a little bit discreet, right? So if you got approached by someone that said, hey, you've got a kid there, you're obviously a dad, how do you feel about getting up on stage and rocking out your dad bod? People can take it either way. So luckily the blokes that got up there took it as a compliment, and they were pretty proud about it. I think one of them ended up getting a tattoo of it later in the day. So it was all in good fun, but it's nice to give the boys a bit of a encouragement as well.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that lads have been walking up to ladies and inviting them onto the stages for quite some time now. So it's interesting to see it sort of spin back the other way.
Yeah, isn't it? And it was just, it was a lot of fun. And I think I've never heard so many cheers for anyone really than the 5-year-old kid who won the mullet competition in Toowoomba. I think his name is Vince, and it was the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and then he clammed up on stage and they couldn't get a word out of him. I think that was was that the kid? Yeah.
If I was 5, that's probably the same.
Yeah. Rayan came and asked me if I'd do the beard and mustache competition. I went, yeah, sure, no worries, man. I'm quite proud of my beard. I reckon it was a stitch up because I lined up against all the other competitors. I went, oh man, I'm so out of my league here. They were like down to the belly button, huge, big beards, and then The
Toowoomba beards were definitely something else on top of the Melbourne beards. I think Melbourne hipsters have dropped their game in the last couple of years, I've got to say. But there was one gentleman who we found who had an incredible mustache in Melbourne, and he said, oh no, the grand champion from a couple of years ago is here. I've seen him and I'm not going up against that. I thought, wow, okay, there's some like long-term players here.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Now, you mentioned before that you were there judging, and judging is one of your passions, and you're actually a registered ABA judge, KCBS judge, and an SCA judge. So, I mean, there's so many questions in here. Let's just kick it off with Meatstock judging questions, because I'm assuming you were judging in Melbourne as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I judged ABA in Melbourne and then SCA and ABA in Toowoomba.
Oh, okay, cool. So did you see many differences in what was coming across the tables in terms of the ABA between Melbourne and Toowoomba? Were there different regional flavour profiles coming through?
Not so much. I think the last couple of years has given a lot of teams an opportunity to really refine their craft, and the quality of turn-ins across the board was next level. I've never seen so many 300 pins go out in, the 5 years I've been doing this. So yeah, I think it's interesting because compared to SCA, where people get to have, a bit of creative freedom and fun and explore new flavors and things like that. And, I'm sure we'll touch on that in a moment, but the ABA standard has just become so high that you're finding your call out differences to be of, 0.1 or 0.2 difference between them. So when it's about regional flavors, I think maybe in Toowoomba we had a few, ribs that people are using more sweeter rubs than more spicy rubs. In Melbourne, that's just based on what we received on our table. But really it's just about the fact that the people have been hanging out to show exactly what they are made of for so long. And this is the first Meatstock we've had in Queensland. So people are really, really keen to give it all they've got. And like they brought it. It was amazing.
Yeah. What were some of the highlights of what came across your table?
Not on my table, but the table next to us. We saw some chicken's feet.
Ooh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really bold move. But I know that there was a team who decided to have a bit of fun with it. Now, I don't know if anyone has gotten amongst the chicken's feet at Yumcha, but the collagen and skin in the chicken's feet take on really incredible flavors. It's like a sponge for marinades and rubs. And then when you smoke it, you end up getting like a much more palatable texture in terms of the way that the foot cooks. So in Yumcha, it can be a little bit kind of slimy and weird for people, but having them barbecued was just something else. Otherwise, I think I probably had some of the best ribs I've had in my life, and the brisket was all incredible as well. So, I mean, all in all, like it was really a pleasure to judge this year.
Right. So with the 2-year break that we've had with the spicy flu, as they call it, with no competitions happening, what you've actually seen is a huge sort of leap forward, which would be unexpected. That's not what I would have predicted. I would have predicted maybe a bit of a slide back. That's really interesting. Now, the SCA. Tell us about the SCA at Toowoomba as well.
So I love judging SCA because it is so much fun and you really get to see how people are creating flavors. It's a bit of like the MasterChef of barbecue as far as I'm concerned, because you get to play with the theme, try different techniques and, really push the boundaries. It was also really interesting to see people taking the categories and just running wild with it. We saw desserts in the poppers category. We saw I think it must have been bacon LCMs. Like we saw some really, really cool stuff in there. And from a hospitality background, I really love when people are trying new techniques and pushing the envelope. And really, that's exactly what happened.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, it's incredible. And it's obviously, for some people, there's categories where they go, I want to really make the best example of what this category means. Traditionally, and you see some people who just go, got that, let's see what else we can do. So yeah, it was a good mix of that in Toowoomba for sure.
Yeah, I found that the bar is raised at every single competition for SCA. It's like everyone looks at the photos and then goes, okay, how can we up that? How can we up that? And the creativity coming through in the boxes is wild right now. Now,
it is.
Tell me about that dessert popper. What was happening there?
Yeah, so we had actually we had a couple of things. So what I'll mention is this was not on our table, but the one next to us. And I'm talking with fine dining patisserie quality turn in. This was a jalapeno ice cream with candied jalapeno, vanilla ice cream with candied jalapenos with a chocolate dome and gold leaf on a biscuit base. So if you think about that, it's not something you would normally see in a turn-in box. It's something you would see at, Adriana Zumbo. So people have literally spent the last few months, while there hasn't been competitions going on, figuring out how to do such incredible quality turn-ins and expressions of barbecue flavors that it doesn't even like, it blows your mind a little bit.
Right. So that was almost like a deconstructed jalapeno popper then.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the one that stands out to me the most. And it's just incredible because you get judges who, like, at the end of the turn-in, everything's all finalized and we're all cleared to chat, and you turn around and someone says, "This is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. You have to see this." Like, and that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Very nice, very nice. Now, how long have you been judging for?
5 years now. I started in 2007, and apart from obviously, I've been judging pretty consistently ever since.
Right, okay. And you're in KCBS and ABA and SCA. What sort of differences have you noted between the two? Sort of, I guess, particularly between KCBS and ABA, because they're both low and slow. Have you found that there's different trending flavor profiles between the two?
I think before I would have said yes. We haven't had that many KCBS competitions since then. But what I noticed prior to was probably that real classic American style is stuck to a little bit more closely in KCBS, whereas the ABA people have, I wouldn't say more freedom, because everyone's very committed to bringing the most quality, balanced portion that you've got. But in terms of the rubs and sauces used, I think there is a little bit more of that classic American flavor that people were emphasizing in KCBS a few years ago. So I'm really interested to see how that comes out in competitions moving forward, especially since, when we've got our championship categories, they're pretty similar, but you're looking at, perhaps just showing a bit of a different story there in terms of what the judges are looking for.
Interesting. So it sounds like you're saying that the flavor profiles in the ABA are sort of following a little behind of where the KCBS is at. So they're sort of chasing along. Like you sort of said that flavor profiles of KCBS, say it was here, and then just in terms of chronology and evolution, and then the ABA was about there now.
I think what I'm saying is that KCBS is a lot more traditional American, whereas ABA has taken the American foundations and tried to create flavors that are really balanced and appealing for the Australian palate, which, may not necessarily always be directly influenced by those like, Kansas City and other southern states.
Gotcha. Okay. And in terms of the systems between the two, what are some of the differences for people who are not barbecue judges? They wouldn't be aware of the differences between the two systems. Can you give us a bit of an idea of some of the big differences between them? Yeah,
I think the big differences is mainly how the actual judging is rolled out. So you might find going to a KCBS competition, the tables are laid out differently, the scorecard looks a bit different. But the fundamentals of trying to judge barbecue for, taste, texture, appearance, like all that sort of stuff is pretty similar. So I think there's a lot more difference between like SCA and the other two. I definitely find that when people have only judged SCA and they come into ABA, it requires a little bit more discipline, I suppose. But ultimately, what's most important to me is that we're judging things fairly and understanding that, the teams are putting out high quality turn-ins. It's not about giving people a kick in the teeth. They know when they've not had a good cook, so the fairness is really important. And I think the structure is really there for KCBS and ABA both. And it's just a little bit about on the day you just sit in a different spot.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, over the last 5 years, since 2017, you've judged probably 20, 30, 40 competitions, would you say?
I actually can't remember, but we're definitely well above 20.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say so.
So over that much time with that much experience, what improvements would you like to see in general across the competition barbecue scene?
Yeah. a couple of key things for me. As I mentioned, I think the fairness and integrity of judging is something that should be really, really core. I have seen a bit of inconsistency in terms of hand-in scores where you have judges who are pretty experienced and you walk away thinking, wow, we've had some really top quality turn-ins today. And then you check the scores back just out of interest later on and find that, teams are getting 5s and 6s when they've handed in 8s and 9s or 10s. And you just think, well, that's not really fair and it's not really accurate. And I think that a lot of that just comes from experience and a good briefing. So, it's a little bit hard when everyone's volunteers, but it's the consistency of the setup, I think, that we can really nail in order to get the best results out of our team of volunteer judges, no matter how experienced they are. The other thing that I'd really like to see is probably just more opportunities for teams to get not acquainted with judges in terms of the, I guess, mixing, because you want to keep everything to the utmost integrity. But I think it would be really nice to have a bit of a opportunity for teams and judges to communicate, what they're turning in, what they've been working on, what kind of standard people are working towards, so that judges and teams can understand where both sides are coming from. I think sometimes there's a bit of segregation there, and unless you've had the opportunity to cook and judge, you don't kind of get to see both sides of the coin.
That's a good point. Have you actually competed yourself?
I have not, and I talked about it with a friend before and really wanted to get involved, and that was kind of waylaid for a bit, and now I think it's going to take a little while for me to not be so chicken, because I haven't exactly been cooking in a most appropriate setup in my little barbecue balcony. So perhaps once I feel more confident, I will jump back in the ring.
Fair enough. All right, look, that's a good point for us to take a little break, and we'll be back in just a moment. In our modern lives, there are some things we need more of. More time, more money, more love from family and friends. Here at Smoking Hot Confessions, we believe all that can be done through barbecue. If this sounds like you too, then you're going to want to keep the last weekend of July free, because we are bringing you BarbieCon. BarbieCon is a 2-day virtual event with the sole purpose of helping you save time, save money, and become the envy of your family and friends. We're bringing the best barbecue pitmasters and business owners from around the country live into your living room. They're going to show you not only what they do, but how they do it. If you're a backyard barbecuer, we're going to shorten that learning curve, eliminate the ruined meals going into the bin, and cement you as a barbecue legend among your family and friends. And if you're a barbecue business owner, we're going to share all the shortcuts to success, the tips and tricks to trim your budget and maximize profits, and build a thriving business that will help you take care of all your loved ones. Pre-registrations are open now, so hit the link in the description, bang in your details, and you'll be the first to be notified as soon as the early bird tickets are available, any specials that we're running, when we announce presenters, freebies, and more. So I'll see you there.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
Okay, Ceri. Now, one of the things that you have done to change the barbecue scene and the way you see it and the way you'd like to see it is you founded the very popular Facebook group, the Women of Low and Slow Australia. So tell us about all that. Kick off with when it all started.
Yeah, awesome. So I went to the barbecue and beer roadshow up here. I can't remember if that was 2017 or 2018. Had a great time, and the Shank sisters were up on stage on a panel I think you were hosting.
Yes.
And I remember looking around and just thinking, wow, there's a women's barbecue team. Like, that's awesome. Like, where are all the other women in barbecue doing stuff? And I think I asked the question, and someone was like, oh, they're right here. Like, they're the Shank sisters. Like, yeah, but there's got to be more of us, surely. So I messaged Linda from Pit's Perfect and said, hey, you are doing some awesome stuff. Where are all the chicks at? And she's like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, she said, I know a few people, let's, start a group. And so we started the Women of Low and Slow Barbecue Australia Facebook group with 25 of the best women that we knew in barbecue, which was about all of them that we knew. And from there, it has grown to 835 members at last count. So it has been about 4 years in the making, but there's an incredible community in there now. So yeah, and that's everything from judges to vendors to rubs and sauces businesses to caterers and competitors and judges and all the rest. So, and heaps of home cooks.
Right. So it's like a whole industry group rather than just a competition barbecue focused group.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that really speaks to the inclusivity that we wanted to provide with the group, which was when people are feeling uncertain about asking questions just about home cooking, then they never have an opportunity to develop their skills and confidence enough to explore competing or opening a business or anything like that. So providing a ground where people could really ask the questions that they, might feel intimidated to ask in a really large group, just enables people a little bit more to make that happen.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one of the things that that I was when I was reading the group descriptions and all that sort of stuff, you'd written about how it was a safe space for women to and non-binary people to participate. Why is it important for women and non-binary people to have their own space?
So, quite often when a space is male dominated, the conversation and the humor that is in that can make other guests feel very uncomfortable. So, for instance, one of the key things that I guess instigated my desire to create this space was being in one of the large barbecue groups, and it was just post after post of really disgusting sexist jokes that were kind of barbecue related, but mostly sexual and derogatory towards women. And it didn't make me want to be there. And it certainly didn't want to make me ask questions, because people would pile on with, sarcasm and jokes and put downs. And I just thought, gross. It's about barbecue. Barbecue is like one of the most community oriented, food activities that we have in the world. Like, it's all about feeding the family. It's about having a party. It's about everyone coming together. So why is this the way that people are talking to each other and about other people? I wasn't about it. So I thought I'd do something about it myself.
Well, I love it. That's one of the things that we strive for in our Facebook group as well. We don't tolerate any of that sort of guff. And I think that what you're doing is really important as well, because it is. I've just brought up a copy of the logo on the screen there. If people decide they want to jump on Facebook and have a bit of a look at it. But yeah, I think what you're doing is really important, because a lot of that behavior is really alienating, and barbecue should be uniting, not divisive. So that's one of the things that we have in common, that we stand for as well.
Yeah, and I really love that about the work that you do, and the fact that we're having a whole season of, talking to and about women in the industry. And it's, I totally acknowledge that when you have a group where it's so large that it's really hard to moderate, like, that's an issue in itself, and that's totally cool. Like, it's just kind of part and parcel of the online world, but it's the culture that needs to change underneath it, because if that culture changes, you don't have to spend all this time moderating it, because it's not there.
Exactly. Yeah. You just sort of eradicate it before it all starts. So tell me, as an admin or a moderator of that group, what is done in that group? Do you have competitions? Do you have themes? Like, how do you, because I mean, you've grown it to 835, which is a great size group. What do you sort of do to keep the group going and keep that momentum going?
So at the moment, we keep it pretty unstructured. I know a lot of Facebook groups have got like your, daily topics and themes. It's just a lot more easygoing than that. So we like to welcome all of our new members, find out where they're from, what they want to learn, what they're interested in. We have experts who might be competition queens. We have some really incredible, talented people in the group. They might own businesses. They might be caterers. We've even got butchers in there. So when people have questions to ask, they know that they're going to get a response from someone who can absolutely be classified as an expert. I'm going to be running expert sessions now that people have got their year down pat, so that we can actually have, I know we've got Cassie from Smoke on the Water, who is just a huge encyclopedia of barbecue knowledge and runs workshops. So people like that are a great resource, and having them available for people to ask questions during in-group sessions is really valuable. We've started to do meetups as well. At Meatstock, it was a little bit hard to get everyone all in the same place because they were such large events, but we've got meetups happening in Queensland, and I hope to extend those out a little bit further as well. And as well as that, we've got our own merchandise. I'm wearing one here. So that was designed by Cassie from Ground Zero, who's a woman who's designed a lot of barbecue logos in the industry. And we have that live now. And in the very, very short time ahead, we've got our women's business directory and teams directory going live as well. So lots in the works. It's been keeping me busy in my spare time, but it's great to showcase the amazing women that we've got in the group doing amazing things in the industry.
Yeah, those are some excellent ideas to be developing there. Some great stuff. Is that all going to be available on your website?
It is, and some of it is live now, and some of it is in the works to be released very shortly. So yeah, stay tuned. There's always updates happening.
Fantastic stuff. Now, here's a big question. We've talked about some of the divisive behaviors and things like that can happen in the barbecue scene. What are some things that as men we can do to make the barbecue scene more welcoming to women and non-binary people?
For sure. I'm really glad you're asking this question and that this conversation is being had. I know a lot of really great supportive blokes, really awesome, and sometimes they don't know what to say in order to be the best ally or best support person. Sometimes it can be as easy as when someone just makes a really crass sexist joke, just being like, oh, that's not funny, man. Like, simple as that. And when you see it constantly in the groups all the time, it can be as easy as, nah, we don't say that here. Like just literally calling it out, shutting it down, because quite often people will test the waters with jokes which are, fairly innocuous but a bit on the nose, and they'll just keep pushing the boundary past that. So the earlier you nip it in the bud, the less it can escalate, because quite often those jokes can indicate a belief that that person has about another group of people, whether that's because of sex or race or whatever else. Those behaviors can then get worse, and it comes to people actually being harassed in public and things like that, or getting, doxed or, other worse things. We don't want any of that. So let's just nip it in the bud early, hey?
Yeah. Boundaries of respect. I like that. Good stuff.
Sure.
Good stuff. Now, you have another project on the go as well. That's Healthy Party Girl. This was interesting when I was looking at this online. Tell us about Healthy Party Girl.
Yeah, cool. So Healthy Party Girl started as a blog in about 2009. I was working in the music industry as a music journalist and at a not-for-profit health company. And nutrition and health has always been a really big part of my life, but getting the balance right is something that's even more important to me. I think there's really extremist views of raw foods and green juices and marathons and yoga and all that stuff, and it's just a bit much. So it's, I don't believe in extremes one way or another. I think that life is a bit of a balance. So you've got my logo there. It's me in activewear in a martini glass, in a bit of a nod to Sailor Jerry, of course, the work of the great tattoo artist and stuff. So yeah, from that, I actually trained as a health coach and then later became a registered nutritionist. So my work with my clients is around finding the balance for them, healing and preventing burnout, and, finding a way that they can, have their cue and eat it too.
Yeah, nice. And so what's the sort of crossover there? Is it sort of naturally helping people find the balance between the often overindulgent barbecue lifestyle and actually being able to survive the overindulgent barbecue lifestyle? Is that sort of where you're aiming there?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. So I have clients who tend to be really, high achievers or overachievers, and they're balancing maybe a full-time job with side projects that may or may not include, being on a competition team or something like that. It's pretty intense work, people who are giving up their weekends and their rest time for the pursuit of their passions, essentially. And of course, when we don't rest, we end up taking ourselves closer and closer to burnout. And when we're burned out, we're useless to ourselves and everyone in our lives. And we're not going to be happy, and we're going to get health problems and all this stuff. And you can't enjoy your life when, you're feeling that rubbish. So my work is mainly preventative, but I am a clinical nutritionist. So when people are really in that state of burnout, I am able to prescribe supplements and really get them out of that chronic state so that they can then go back to, slowly chipping away at the good habits and lifestyle changes that mean that they can kind of get to do it all.
Great stuff. Now, when I was reading the bio there, I saw that you had actually already created a cookbook in the past. Mm-hmm. Are we going to see like a healthy barbecue cookbook coming out anytime soon?
Yes. I am putting the finishing touches on Have Your Cue and Eat It Too, which is an ebook. So making it nice and easy for people. And so in that guide, there's a note on what is actually a regular portion, because I find that gets a little bit lost sometimes. Ways that you can balance out, the days when you are enjoying some delicious, well-cooked meat products with, more physical activity, making sure you're getting plenty of fiber through your greens and all of that, and making sure they're not boring, because there's nothing that I hate worse than boring everyday Coles coleslaw. For instance, I made a salad last night that my partner was like, this is probably the best salad I've ever had in my life. And I thought, well, that's good because it's in the book. And, it's just like making vegetables not boring. You can chuck, a wedge of cos on the grill for a minute and, grate some Parmesan over it and make it something delicious rather than it being boring, and still getting the nutrients and fiber that your body needs to probably balance out some of the, some of the good stuff. So plenty of things like that, and some nutritional nudges in the butt on the way.
Yeah. It's funny how we sort of lose control of our diets, lose focus on our diets, and it very quickly kind of spirals. We were visiting some family, and we'd been eating just horribly. Like it was a holiday. We were indulging in everything. And we ended up saying to them, look, can we just go to Aldi and just get some steaks and some things, and like we'll put on a meal for you? And they said, yeah, sure, no worries. So we just did just some grilled steaks and a garden salad, basic garden salad, lettuce, tomato, carrot, a little bit of French dressing on top of the French vinaigrette dressing, not the creamy dressing. And the fan members were saying, oh my God, this is amazing. What's in this? And we're like, nutrients, minerals, vitamins.
Exactly. And you know what? That's it. It's about making that stuff delicious. And quite often it's just that people don't realize that you can make it good, or that it doesn't have to be like your plain salad. Or sometimes people just haven't experienced stuff like that before. And, you mentioned about being on holiday and having a lot of indulgent foods. A lot of people beat themselves up about that. Like you go, oh, I've been in Toowoomba at Meatstock for 3 days eating meat. Like, oh, I feel, all that stuff. And it's just about, actually, no, you had an awesome time. Enjoy the fact that you got to experience that. And there was like, gosh, so many good vendors there. You want to eat everything. And then after that, you go, okay, cool. That was awesome. And now I'm going to balance it out a little bit. I'm going to do a few more walks this week. Maybe I'll hit up the gym. Maybe I'll chuck in an extra CrossFit session or whatever you want to do. And then, drink some more water, have some more greens, and you can get back to brisket on the weekend. Like, it's not really a big deal. People make it out to be way harder than it needs to be, and way more boring than it needs to be. And the whole point of food is that it's not just filling your body, but it's a sensory pleasure as well. So you come together, enjoy a good meal, don't beat yourself up over it and just balance it out later.
Well said. I like that. That's probably a good point for us to take a quick break. We will be back in just a moment. Alrighty, folks, if you are in the market for some beautiful barbecue merch, if you're after a hoodie, a t-shirt, we got beanies, we've got our beautiful Smoking Hot Confessions tumblers there. I'm drinking out of one right now. Keeps the hot drinks hot and the cold drinks cold. As you're aware, winter is coming. So we do have those beautiful, thick, fleecy hoodies there and those beanies. They do feature our award-winning Hail Mary design on the back, picked up Best Barbecue Apparel 2020 over at the MBBQA in the United States. So it's some good stuff, and it would really help and support the show as well. One thing I did love when I was at Meatstock was I got to see a couple of folks running around in some Smoking Hot t-shirts, and that really just put a smile on my dial and made me feel good about all the things that we're doing here on the show. So jump on board to smokinghotconfessions.com/shop. Check them out. It would really help us out, and we would really appreciate it very, very much.
You're listening to the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with massive barbecue nerd Ben Arnott.
Alrighty, Ceri. Now, this is the third part of the show. This is the segment where our guest gets to impart some wisdom to the viewers and the listeners, share some advice, share some ideas. So I'm just going to sit back and have a good listen and write down some notes for some questions later on, and I'm going to let you teach us.
Yeah, awesome. So I want to just give y'all a few tips on how you can have your cue and eat it too. Sorry, I just saw one of your comments down there. That's my dark history has been exposed. So when we're setting the scene for our week, obviously you'll know what's coming up for you, whether you've got a cook planned or an event to go to or something like that. When I sit down at the start of my week, I plan not just my calendar, but my meals as well. So this might look like, okay, cool, we've got wings night on Wednesday. We're going to, cook up a brisket or a short rib or something on the weekend. And there's going to be a couple of leftovers in there as well. I believe in doing bulk cooks sometimes, so that especially when you're busy, you get to know that you've got things planned for you ahead of time. Saves stress, saves hassle. So then you can kind of go, all right, well, if I'm going to have these rich meals, meaty goodness, then I'm going to make sure that I'm getting my veg in there as well. So I like to have a bit of a rotation of my meals if I get really stuck. So things like Taco Tuesday, you've got, like I said, Wings Wednesday is always a fave in our house. We usually do something that takes a bit more time and effort on the weekends when we've got more time there. And then there's plenty of opportunity for having some fish or vegetarian-based meals to balance things out during the week. So you generally need to make sure that your portion sizes are probably around a palm size, and that doesn't sound like a lot. And so generally in barbecue, we're probably erring on the side of a larger portion, which makes it all the more important to make sure that we're, not overindulging every single meal of the day. There's a rule that I like to follow with my clients, or a guideline, because I don't really like rules, which is to have half my plate of veggies and the rest of it is my proteins and my carbs. So carbs includes all of your rices, grains, cornbreads, beans, and any of your starchy veggies. So if you've got some fries or, cold baked potatoes going on, then that's taking up a quarter of the plate. So whilst that might sound like a bit of a different balance, it's just a guideline. If you can work towards something like that more often than not, then that's a great way to, approach things. And making sure that you get plenty of fiber. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to go down the route like Elvis. So I do like to make sure that we're getting plenty of fiber going on. For me, that means that I pack the Metamucil or the psyllium husk when I'm judging a comp. But it also means that, if you've got a food truck like Blue Bonnets who's doing a rad slaw, then I'm getting a couple of serves of that in once the turn-ins are over. It's all about balance, really. If you're thinking, you're smashing out a whole bunch of different cook preparations and competition prep and all that sort of stuff, awesome. That's going to be a period of time where you're probably going to be eating a lot more meat and rich foods and enjoying that, and that's all good. Then you want to make sure that you're balancing that out with some time that's kind of not so intensely on the meat side of things. Don't be scared of your vegetarian options. I think we saw a really good example of a vegetarian patty at the last Meatstock. You know, what I really loved was that some teams actually went with that and said, okay, well, I'm going to make the best veggie burger possible for my veggie mates. By having a couple of vegetarian meals, you actually do really, really reduce your risk of some of those really not so fun health conditions. So, you know, there is something to be said for getting some extra veggies in. Even just chuck a whole bunch of veggies on the grill while you're warming it up next time, or, you know, while it's cooling down. It doesn't take long for them to cook and become super delicious, and the last thing you want is boring veggies. So make it easy on yourself and don't take it too seriously.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. So much goodness in there. Now, when you talk about planning your week, your calendar and your meals, I'm assuming that that's really important as well, because a lot of people get caught out in the middle of the week because they're so busy and they end up with a bunch of different takeaway meals. And you mentioned bulk cooks there as well. So that's something that we actually do here as well. So every Sunday afternoon, I'll cook 2 or 3 different bulk meals and then package them up and freeze them. And one of the best ones I found was a cottage pie, because I was able to actually get 4 types of vegetables in the filling and then a big potato top, and my kid eats it up and loves it and doesn't even realize he's getting 5 serves of vegetables.
Yes, and hidden veggies are not just for kids. Like, if you know that you're not super keen on the idea of it, like, just hide them from yourself. It's totally fine. No judgment here. I like to make a spaghetti bolognese with, you know, beautiful grass-fed mince and, you know, high quality, and don't get lean mince. Like, you do need some fat in your diet as well. And also, you know, fat is flavor. Like, that's, you know, we know this. Just, you can squeeze as many veggies as possible in that sauce and blend it all up and you'll not know the difference. Like, just, don't judge yourself for it. Just get them in any way you can. And, you know, one of the resources that I really love is, like, this is going to probably be a bit nerdy, but I love Southern Living. Like,
okay.
You know, that American website, like, they have heaps of really great casserole and slow cook meal options for bulk cooking. Like, I've made the most amazing black-eyed bean and kale and turnip stew recently, and it lasted us for a few meals. And I'm like, this is delicious. Like, the Americans know how to do a hidden veggie. So, you know, use your resources at hand. Find a few recipes that you are happy to eat a couple of times a week. My partner's a shift worker, so, you know, he's happy to eat the same meal 5 times in a week. I'm not. So, you know, you can have your leftover pulled pork mixed into your soup, or you can make tacos out of it, or like whatever, you know, just make it, like I said, make it easy for yourself and squeeze them in any way you can. And it's a little bit of planning ahead of time goes a long way. I have definitely been guilty of, like, oh, you know what? We could just get Frankie's, you know, like we could just do that. Or if I've got a meal plan sorted for myself that I'm excited to eat, then we're not going to do that. And we can save our takeaways for, you know, when we're actually looking forward to having it on site, really.
Yeah. And you often save a lot of money that way as well, running a meal plan through the week. Very much,
and at the moment we're saving, we've just bought a block of land so that we've actually got somewhere to cook properly. So that's going to be a little bit of time in the making to get the house built. But the whole idea is that I won't be trying to sneak my BBQ on the balcony anymore.
Well, congratulations. That's really exciting news.
Yeah, it's super cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, you were also mentioning palm-sized portions there before, and I'd imagine like at least 3/4 of the audience here probably went, oh my God. So how do you sort of work your way down to a palm-sized portion until the palm-sized portion feels regular? Because I run on protein. I feel rubbish if I eat carbs. I need to eat, like I have a protein shake for breakfast and another one at lunch, particularly if I'm at work, and then like cans of tuna for snacks during the day. How do you sort of do you need to work your way down to those palm sizes so that feels like enough?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. I advocate not jumping into the deep end when it comes to stuff like this. Definitely easing in, making small sustainable changes. So for instance, we had ribs recently, and for me, I can see that it would be really easy to smash a whole rack. Like it's delicious. You want to keep going. We've gotten to the point now where it's easy for us to go, okay, well, if we're going to share a rack, we're going to have some, green beans on the side, whatever, then we can share that. And it's, really easy when you get like the tasting platters of barbecue to like look at it and go, yeah, I could eat that whole thing myself. But it's like, well, your brain actually switches off its flavor receptors after a couple of bites. So
Really?
after a couple of bites, well, so what happens? There's the buffet effect, right? When you go to a buffet, you're more likely to overeat because the novelty of it. So if you've got a single meal, which is the same thing, and you are eating it mindfully, after a while, you'll be like, I'm actually bored of this. And so your stomach has decided, okay, cool, I've had enough food. Your brain has decided, I'm not interested in this anymore. And it signals your hunger receptors to kind of go, okay, well, we're probably done here. I could eat more, but I could also leave it. So if you have like your beautiful platter for one, sometimes you can just look at it and go, okay, well, I've got several palm-sized portions here. Which one's going to be my priority one, and which ones do I just want to have a taste of? That's one way to do it. You go, okay, well, my priority is the brisket today, then I'm going to make sure that I try everything else and have a good time. I want to make sure that I get plenty of that protein. So I'm the same as you. I run on protein. I've got ADHD. I find that people who have ADHD quite often are much better on protein than carbs anyways. But it's all about making sure that you're getting protein at every meal and smaller amounts each time so that you can maintain that consistency of energy and muscle recovery. It's not so much about like, okay, cool, I'm going to cut my steak in half and discard the rest. Nah, it's like just getting to know your body a little bit better and recognizing when your novelty receptor is firing and when it's not, so that then you can go, okay, cool, well, you know what? I've had enough of this one today. I'm going to put it aside to have for my leftovers tomorrow.
Interesting stuff, yeah. And just one last question there. I just wanted to check the numbers on things. You said half the plate should be the palm size of meat and the other half should be veggies and carbs. So that's a quarter carbs, quarter veggies. Is that right? Is that like the good balance?
So if you're working towards the ideal plate, and like I said, this is something you work towards, this is the ideal, anything kind of near enough is good enough as far as I'm concerned. You get your half of your plate as your non-starchy vegetables, get a quarter of your plate as your palm-sized serve of meat, and then the other quarter is going to be your carbohydrates. So you might find that if you're working a bit better on dividing that half a plate into 1/3 and 2/3 and having that 2/3 protein, you'll know your body enough to know that, you don't need that much carbohydrate and you can pare that back a little bit. And that's totally cool too. The whole idea is that if you get enough veggies in, it's going to mitigate all of the effect of the saturated fats and other things that we add to our glorious meats, so that you can still be, healthy and thriving and not worrying about chronic health conditions and have a long and illustrious time in barbecue.
Beautiful. And it gives us more time to get all those call-ups and get on stage and get those trophies.
100%. Makes the walk a lot easier up there too.
Oh, yeah. Nice. All right, that's probably a good point for us to start to wrap up the episode. So I'm going to get you to give some shout-outs and some praise and some thank yous to people that have helped you out along the way, and tell everybody where they can follow you on the internet.
Yeah, awesome. You can find me on Instagram at Healthy Party Girl. You can find the Women of Low and Slow Barbecue Facebook and Instagram just by searching that. All of that will have our links to our website and merch and all the rest. And I'd love to see some new faces in the group from here as well. Shout outs. Well, obviously Linda from Pitts Perfect, who is the co-founder of the Women in Low and Slow.
She's amazing.
Beck from Rivertown Smoke, who has always been a huge supporter and friend. Chloe from Barbecue Asylum, who's an absolute legend in the group, always giving us super great advice. Pam from the Q Club, what a trailblazer. I adore that woman. And I've got to say, the most supportive bloke who has been, a great support from day one is Ollie from Ollie's Q. So he's a great support as well, as much as he gives me shit about being an ex-vegan. So, and also I got to say, yourself. Huge thanks to you for the support that you've given the group, as well as Bree. Bree's also been amazing. James Park as well. He's spreading the word of women in low and slow when I'm not aware. So thanks to all of those people who have been amazing supports for us along the way. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today. I know that Thursday is your busy day where you like to get in and get all the hard work done before the weekend. So I appreciate you taking time out of that important day to hang out here and talk barbecue and fitness with me.
That's right. I think these conversations are as important or more so than all my invoicing.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
And there you have it, family. That was, of course, Ceri Kidby-Salem from so many things, from barbecue judging. It actually took me a little while to work out where to put the face with the name, and it turns out I've been seeing her on the circuit for several years, and it's funny that we just finally now put the face and the name together. Judging at Meatstock, judging ABA, judging KCBS, judging SCA. The amazing Facebook group, the Women of Low and Slow Australia, which does a lot for equality and inclusiveness in the barbecue scene as well, and providing and holding space for women and non-binary people as well. We talked a lot about about how we blokes can do a lot to improve the scene as well. So get on that, establish those boundaries, and stand by your principles and make the scene better for everybody. That's my part of that as well. Healthy Party Girl, check that out as well. There's a lot of going to be a lot of healthy barbecue tips coming through there soon to help keep us all nice and safe and healthy as well. So to wrap things up, just a quick reminder, Barbacon is coming. Get that in your long-term memory. Don't put it in the short-term memory. Put it in the long-term memory. Barbacon. Keep an eye on the socials. Keep an eye on the SmokingHotConfessions.com website. And if you are over there, head to the shop page over there. Support the show. Grab a T-shirt, hoodie, beanie. We've got ebooks there as well. We'd love your support. It'd really help us out. And we would love you forever. So that's it from me then. Until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to SmokingHotConfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.